Hey everyone, welcome to Podcast The Sequel, where we talk about the good, the bad, and the continued. My name's Ryan.
My name's Joseph.
I'm Manira.
I'm Marissa.
And with the upcoming release of Alien Romulus, we're going to be talking about aliens today. But before we do that, let's get into our roots, where it all began. And of course, as always, there's going to be spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, make sure you check that out. So Alien, 1979, Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
What are our thoughts on that?
It's a classic. I feel like that's one of the better sci-fi horror movies out there. I don't want to say started the genre, but in my opinion, pretty much did
I
for
say
me.
that.
Yeah, like it's. I use this loosely because people can say perfect film for a lot of them. To me, that's like a perfect like start off for any franchise. You start off with Alien, Ridley Scott, Sigourney Weaver as Ripley. That movie's fantastic. I love it. It's one of my favorites.
So I'm probably one of the few people who did not enjoy Alien. I really thought it was very slow paced, very boring. I know a lot of people say that it started the sci-fi horror genre. I just didn't really care for it. I was just very bored watching it. I know you're judging me. I understand the judgment. Believe me, I understand it. But it was very boring. I was just meh the entire time. I felt myself reaching for my phone while I was watching it.
And
I did. I probably spent more time on my phone than actually watching the movie, but it was just meh for me. Like, I didn't really care for it, the plot line, everything. I was just okay. Next, Marissa.
Hurts my soul.
That hurts.
I know.
so
I'm
much.
so sorry.
I
don't even know where to go from that.
I'm so hurt right now.
I'm sure you're not alone in not liking Alien. I'm sure a lot of people don't like Alien.
Like 1% of the population or whatever.
I mean, I will say, in slight of Mooney's defense, like, I am not typically one for alien films. Like, anything that deals with like UFOs or like aliens in general, I'm usually not that into it. But I feel like Alien kind of takes almost like a Jaws approach, right? Where like you're not really scared by the alien itself until it comes out. Like, you've kind of got, like, even from the opening of Alien, it's just very foreboding. It's dark. It's creepy. Like even the tagline that they announced, where it's like, in space no one can hear you scream. Like, it's terrifying, and they want to scare you and kind of make you a believer that these things actually exist. So I feel like with that in mind, like, it kind of already gives you just kind of like this fear and this unknown and uncertainty, which I feel like over time the franchise itself has gone into. So, I mean, obviously I really like Alien. I think there's kind of more to it in film. And it's definitely worth like a study in general. But I mean, in terms of overall liking and not liking, I really enjoy Alien. I think it's probably the best of the franchise. So I personally think it's the best of the franchise. Just, I mean, not only does it set up the storyline and the characters and the beings themselves, but I just overall think it's great. It's a great film.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say perfect. I don't think anything's
No, it
perfect.
definitely has, like, I have my gripes with it a little bit. Where
there's always going to be
there's
little
like
things here and
ADR
there, but-
gripes and not special effects gripes, but just like editing, I think, is the main thing for me with that video.
Oh yeah, but I also kind of like, I don't know if it's just I'm giving it like kind of like a pass, but I mean, like, the 70s. I mean, I feel like for what it's worth, I was gonna say it's really not too bad.
No, I mean, we'll get into it with Aliens, but like the practical effects, like, amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it just works so well in that film.
Scared me.
I'm so sorry.
But the stuff like that was why Alien was so good. Like,
sorry.
and I feel like you've said it before, just conversations we've had off the pod. It's like it's a horror house in space.
Haunted house.
And
in
like,
space,
I feel like that adds to the scariness, and like the tagline says, like, you can't hear sound in space, so like the tortures that are going on in that ship add value, because like they're just pretty much abandoned, they're dealing with this on their own, and like there's so many cool moments. I love it.
What would we rate it if we were to rate it?
How many poppies are you giving it, Ryan?
For me, because of the editing, like with when they put Ash's head on the table, and it's a very clear.
Oh, you're so like.
That's the only
This is
thing.
the one thing you always mention.
And it's not a deal
it.
breaker, because the rest of the film, like the ambiance that it sets up, is tremendous.
Yeah.
And Ridley Scott is a great director, in my opinion.
Brilliant.
But yeah, just that scene alone, I would probably give it. I would do 3.5 poppies. That's what I
Okay.
would give Poppies.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a 4. 4.
4 poppies.
Comfortable with that.
I would give it 2 out of 5 poppies. Sorry.
I mean, we knew,
don't
we
hate
knew that was
me.
gonna
Yeah,
happen.
I
We knew that
mean-
was gonna happen. I think just with all of the, like, we didn't really get into Alien that much, but I think with all of like the undertones of Alien and like just as I mentioned, kind of like scientific study. I mean, like I think it's definitely worth a watch. I think it's I mean, obviously it was award-winning movie. It won an Oscar for best
Yeah.
visual effects.
It's culturally
Yeah, I was gonna say.
significant.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's. I mean, it's preserved in the Library of Congress. So I mean, like it's. I feel like it's definitely worth noting how important this film is culturally, like just significantly in general. So for me, I would probably give it a 4.5. I was with Joseph initially. I was like, yeah, I'll give it a 4. But I think just like thinking about how interesting this film is in terms of like like I kind of mentioned the undertones of just kind of like sexual undertones and just like masculinity versus femininity. We'll kind of get into it more with like Aliens, but I just think overall film, just like watching and viewing and just kind of from a humanity standpoint, I just think it's very significant, and it kind of makes you feel afraid of not just like a jump scare kind of fear, but like a kind of like unsettling, almost a could happen thing. Like not we're going into space could happen thing, but just like we don't know what's out there.
Yeah, it's true. We got too much
So-
trash around our planet to go.
That is very true.
That's a real thing.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that's
so I
real.
think
The
I just
debris out there.
I'm
is-
just gonna generalize it, just overarching, and give it again and give it a 4.5. Because
Uh-huh.
yeah, nothing. To me, I don't know. It's no movie is really perfect. So it's
Yeah,
hard for me
that's
to-
why I left room for possible
Mm.
higher scores. You know, it's just the first one we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Move on from there.
Yeah.
So, you guys want to get into Aliens?
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Let's do it. Who wants to tip it off?
I'll go into it. So, Aliens is my favorite of the franchise. I think it's a perfect film. I just like I'm not the biggest James Cameron fan, but if you go back to the '80s, this is the third movie he ever directed, coming off of the success of Terminator. It really established him as like a really good director. I love this cast way more. I think it's a more entertaining film. Whereas I won't argue the fact that Alien is way scarier than Aliens. But Aliens to me is way more entertaining. I enjoy the cast. I know Bill Paxton chews up a lot of scenery. He could be annoying in some moments, but then there's some moments that I love him.
Yeah.
It's Bill Paxton. Who doesn't love Bill Paxton? And then just everybody else. I think Ripley is even more badass in this movie. I do appreciate the relationship with her and Newt. I think there's that motherly instinct with Ripley that we get to see towards the end of the film, and we do see. By the way, spoilers are always going to come up when we're talking about these older movies. So if you have not seen Aliens, go check it out, please, before we get into like the real gritty stuff. The alien mother, when she has all the eggs around her, and then you have Ripley protecting Newt, and she has to make a decision right there, like, do we just run or do I just blast all of them? And she makes that choice, and I think it's one of the better scenes. It really shows Ripley's character at a really strong point for me. I think that's the best version of Ripley we get in the entire franchise. So yeah, I love that movie. I think it's just more entertaining to me. I love that cast more. I think they work better together. But to me also, there is still scary scenes in this film. One of them being when they're using that tracker, and you can see them all coming, but they don't know where they're coming from. And they're sealing the door, and they're still like making their way into where we're at. They're all in just one closed sector of the ship, and they look up to the ceiling, and it's dark. Turn the little gun flash on, and you just see all of them coming in, like crawling backwards. That scene always stuck with me. So that's why I've always loved Aliens.
It's like, oh my God, get out of there now.
Yeah, it just hits you. And funny little part too is when the alien mother does use the elevator. There's a clip I used to see a long time ago,
Oh
funny
my
clip
gosh.
where you see the alien mother kind of be like, am I really going to go into this elevator right now? Well, somebody made like a parody of it while it's in the elevator. You just see her like elevator music playing, and it's like looking at its wrist, like how long is this going to take? And I love that movie. I think it's great.
So I kind of want to just before Mooney gets into what she thinks about aliens, because I'm actually really curious. There actually is a scene that was cut from the movie. I don't know if you guys know this, but it actually shows that Ripley did have a daughter, and that when
Ooh.
she was in the Cairo sleep or whatever it is, like the daughter actually passed away. So that's why when she sees Newt, she kind of feels like that motherly bond. And there's actually a little bit of a pause when she has that scene where it's like the queen alien and like all of her eggs, where she kind of pauses and like her
Yeah.
and like the queen are kind of looking at each other, because I think Ripley really does have that like internal like
the
or should I say
motherly
maternal?
instinct.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say instinct of just kind of like, you know, this is somebody else's babies, like, and then I'm holding like essentially a surrogate baby
Yeah.
of her own, and then having lost her daughter, I think she kind of almost for a moment internally struggles with like,
Yeah.
do I kill this mother's babies?
And
Like,
do you
when
think that's
I,
why
you
they
know.
focused like on the aliens like tubes, like
Um,
because they kept like they showed
I
that like
don't
3
know.
times.
I don't. Yeah, I was like,
think
I
it
don't
was-
know if that's because why they showed the tubes per se is like maybe so more so that it's like she's making more. Like it's not gonna stop. Like there's always just all these aliens
Yeah.
coming. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring up that there is that like cut scene, and there is even a cut scene where they show Newt's family at one point. Like that, not so much so to deal with like Ripley's internal, but
Yeah.
I think this movie definitely kind of like stretches more of what we know about Ripley. Like in the first one, she's kind of like, you know, almost like the voice of reason of just like, no, you can't let these things on the ship. Like, what are you doing? Whereas this time, like, she kind of knows what she's dealing with a little bit more, and I think she just kind of like extends that maternal feeling, and she has to go save Newt. Like, right? Like, she's out, right? She got
Yeah.
Hicks. Obviously, Bishop is out.
They're ready to
so,
go.
like, they can go at any time, but she feels that need to go back and get Newt. And for some reason in her brain, she's like, no, she's alive. I know it.
Yeah.
You know, and like that maternal instinct is speaking. And I think, not to take too much away from anybody else, but I think that's where for me Alien and Aliens really reside, where there's so much just undertones of like masculinity versus like maternal instincts. I think once we get into like more of them, there's even like religious and like undertones in there. So I mean, there's definitely more to evaluate with these movies, but
Yeah.
I just wanted, since you brought up the
Yeah.
maternal thing, I just wanted to interject really
No, yeah. And I forgot one more thing before I let you go. Before you give us.
Before I
Never
Oh,
gonna
one more
say
thing,
my
one more
thing.
I'm gonna let you finish, but
She's the wild card. I know. I brought up practical effects with Aliens. I love it even more. There's a scene where like the alien is like they're camouflaging on the ship, and you only know they're there because you can just see the tail kind of spinning out. Another scene that I loved. Like there's just so many scenes in that movie that it pops me. I love it. Now you can go and give us your
Finally.
I'm ready to
review.
hear this. I'm ready to hear this so bad.
Okay, so I would like to preface this. I think probably one of the reasons why I didn't like Alien is because I really don't believe in aliens in general. I'm one of those where like I need to see it in order to believe it. That being said, I really did enjoy Aliens. I think it was very different from the first one. I think it's one of those where it fixed a lot of the issues that I had with the first movie, where the pace was faster. I didn't feel like the movie dragged. I felt myself not reaching for my phone and actually
Even though
watching the
she
movie.
still did.
I still did, but you know what? Different story for a different day. But I agree with you, Joseph, too, about like the whole like maternal instinct side of Ripley. I did enjoy that. And honestly, I think it was just like it was such a better movie. I like the script, like the cast, like the dialogue between all of them. And then to your point as well, with like the masculinity and femininity too, you have like a character like Vasquez, who is a woman but is very masculine. Like you see the first scene that she comes out, she's starting to do, is it pull-ups?
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
doing
Pull-ups.
Yeah. She's got like muscles, the bandana around the
Yeah.
head.
She's
yeah.
swole.
She's badass.
Yeah, I think there's one scene too where she even like she's like, just show me, like they're talking about the aliens, and she's like, just show me where they are, and she like makes a little gun, like little symbol with her hand, and she's like, kind of like, I'm gonna take these things
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Like she's ready to go.
And I think
Yeah,
like it's
she's ready to
also
roll.
with that too, like with her just being like that badass character that she's very much like ready to go down with the ship. Like she's the one that you see like towards the end, she's like, you guys all go, run to safety, and I'm gonna stay behind and just shoot all these bad boys down.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just really enjoyed it. I need to see that clip of the alien in the elevator.
I know.
I've
I need
not
to
seen
find it.
You
It's
need
such
to
a
find
good
it
clip.
so I can watch it.
I
But
feel like
just-
that's almost like a Family Guy thing.
It might, I don't
it
remember
might-
what it
actually,
came from.
Maybe.
I might
No, I
check
think
and
you're
see.
right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I
It's
might
either
look it
Family
up.
Guy. Though I'm confused on two. It's either Family Guy or Robot Chicken. I need to figure out
Pretty
which
sure
one
I
it
think
was.
it's Family Guy.
I feel
Yeah.
like it's Family Guy just because I know they touch on aliens so many times where like they do where it's like Ripley and Newt, and then it's like the bit like the Queen Alien where
Yeah.
like the little like I'm gonna eat you in my baby mouth too, like that thing. They make fun of it. I mean, they make fun of Alien all the time.
Yeah.
But sorry, Mooney, continue.
No worries. Thank you for interrupting me again.
Anytime.
But I think it's like one of those where it fit in very nicely with like the 80s like genre of films. Like I just think it was like very good. Like it was futuristic, but also in its own way like a little retro film where you see like the CGI and like the special effects and everything with it. I thought it was a good time. I enjoyed it. I don't have that many complaints about Aliens. I just honestly I thought it was a really good film.
Nice.
Ryan?
Yeah, for me, I also really enjoyed Aliens. I think there was a really good use of practical effects,
Yeah.
as well as CGI. Like when it
Mhm.
was used very sparingly. It didn't overtake anything.
It didn't take you out of the film.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
ruin movies.
Yeah.
And also the Queen Alien puppet that they
Mhm.
had. I feel like when they showed the tracking of it going up and the tubes and everything,
Yeah.
it's just showing that we made this big ass puppet. We're gonna film it.
Mhm.
We're gonna show you exactly what's going on.
Mhm.
And I think that they did a really good job of sort of like, extending the like lore of the alien and showing like more of the process of how, the life cycle of the alien
Yeah.
from face hugger to
Mhm.
from egg to face hugger to
Yeah.
alien.
The evolution of how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which leads, like, hey, so how many of those might have grown up to be queen aliens, or are there other queen aliens somewhere else?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is an
Good
interesting
question.
concept to
Mhm.
think about.
I think one concept that I also thought about like in the film is, the scene where they're all kind of just like hanging out there, like trying to track them on their little tracker. I always thought about like when I watch a scene, like how did they know how to cut the power, or that cutting out the power will
Yeah.
put them all in the dark. Like to me, I associated the aliens with like animalistic instincts, like kind of thinking them like prey versus predator
Yeah.
kind of thing, like who's actually the prey, who's actually the predator, like who's hunting who.
Yeah.
The humans are technically in alien territory, but the humans are hunting the aliens and the aliens are hunting the humans. So then it just made me just think of like this whole thing, like you're in the wild jungle, like what's happening, like who's hunting who.
Yeah. And you got to remember, like Ripley only goes back because she wants to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Like that's her only
Yeah.
goal. I'm going back to end this.
Mhm.
And she goes, finds a whole, like almost an army of them. Like it's like they're full force. They're like, there's so many at that point. And then you see like scenes where like they're like putting them in a cocoon almost,
Mhm.
just wrapping them up, and like they're mass producing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
whatever you saw in the first one, it's like 10 times worse in the second one. So I really did enjoy that too, where it's like, yeah, they, however they do it, they just figure it out. They're just growing. It's not something you could really stop, but I mean, they always leave the door open.
Yeah, I mean, they
Mhm.
had 57 years probably to
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
figure out.
Yeah.
Sort of
I like the
inner workings.
parallel, and I like the use of word that you said, where it's like they're building their own art. The aliens are building their army,
Mhm.
because the second one is all about, well, now, before when you had Alien, it was like a small little, like not really ready for it,
Yeah,
kind
like
of
a research
troop.
group. Yeah.
Where now, like in the second one, you have Aliens, where it's an actual military force going against it. So I like that parallel between like the aliens also have an army of themselves
Yeah.
versus our army.
Mm.
And then I like what Mooney said about how it's kind of like, man versus, because I mean,
Man versus alien.
yeah, like, well, because up at this point, right? Like, I mean, in natural, like,
It's the idea of like
every-
natural selection.
well, yeah, in natural selection, like we are, like we're the top of the food chain.
We are the top of the food chain.
essentially. I think in certain circumstances, in certain atmospheres, we are top of the food chain. But think about it, like if we're in the middle of the ocean, we are no longer top of the food chain.
No.
Like we're in the middle of the ocean, it's anybody, like it's any things that's in the ocean's game, like sharks, whales, anything that could just get us.
Mhm.
So I think in this sort of setting, we're in space, like it's kind of goes back to that uncertainty, that unknown kind of like conquered territory, where like we have no idea like what's out there, what can get us, what can harm us, what do we have against us, like, so we're gonna bring guns, we're gonna bring whatever we can bring in order to protect ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that like it brings up like a good point where I also thought about too, like while watching it, it's the whole like thing, like the natural selection and everything. How did the aliens communicate with each other? Like
By
Little-
vibe.
Little click. I was
Just
like
the little clicky
They
noises?
just kind of look at each other and go like,
Mm.
"What's up?"
I feel like I feel like they're almost like very cattish, if you will, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, like
'Cause
the way
they're
they
very
crawl,
like, well, because yeah,
hold on to
they
things.
crawl, hold on to things, like they kind of do like this little like hissing, like with their teeth, where they're kind
They
of
move in silence. Like
Yeah.
you can never know when they're really coming unless you have the tracker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're very like
But that scene where they're in the egg chamber,
Mm.
whatever,
Uh-huh.
and the alien looks at the other aliens and is like, "Yo."
Yeah. There's
Yeah,
some
they
out
kind of
there
like they're
recording.
kind of
they-
like
they,
eyeing
in sync.
eyeing
Yeah.
each
Yeah.
other.
Look at him and it's like, "Oh shit," and kind of slink
Yeah.
back around the corner.
Yeah.
Like,
But that's what I'm saying, like a lot of like undertones, right? Because like you're kind of like, think about it in the jungle sense of just like it's you versus the lion. Like the lion have their own way of communicating, just like we do.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's almost kind of terrifying. And I definitely want to touch on how like the aliens communicate and evolve and like their learning process later on. Because I think this one is just kind of, it barely touches upon like, I feel like that should have and would have been the course of Aliens had like things gone differently later on.
Studios didn't get involved.
Yeah, I was gonna say we'll definitely talk about we'll talk about that at some point. But you know, I definitely think, like Joseph said, like it's definitely a good continuation. I think we went from like sci-fi horror to now sci-fi action. You know, now that we know what we're up against, quote unquote, like we have a little bit more power. I definitely think like the characters are once again memorable. You kind of get like the gist of like, you know, towards the end, like, you know, Ripley ends up not being trusting at the beginning from Bishop, who, spoiler, is a robot. But then towards the end, I feel like he kind of proves against her.
Yeah.
You know, like what she's initially thinking because of what she dealt with Ash in the first one. And I love Lance Hendrickson as Bishop.
He's great.
I think he's been involved with the Alien franchise since Aliens. So it's great to see him always playing the
I
part.
loved Ripley's like fear of him, like that PTSD of.
I
Like,
don't
like,
honestly, I don't know if it's fear though. I feel like it's just kind of like she's just reserved, right? She's kind of taken aback. I don't know if she's necessarily afraid.
The last one tried to kill her with the magazine board.
That's true, but I don't
was a
know.
nudie
I
one.
just I don't.
Was it really?
I think it was, yeah.
I was like, I don't really get like fear. I get more just like kind of
Distrust.
like, reserved.
Yeah.
Like she's just kind of like she's holding back. She's not putting all of her like trust
Eggs
in
in one
it.
basket.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
No
they
pun
don't even
intended.
they don't even tell her that like an android is gonna be on the
Yeah.
ship with them. She doesn't find out till that knife scene, which you told me, but like Bill Paxton didn't even know they were gonna do that. to
Oh,
him.
that's
Yeah,
such
no.
a fun,
Yeah.
and honestly, too, to touch on like what you said earlier about Bill Paxton being like, you don't care that he's kind of like goofy and
Yeah.
comic relief. I honestly love Bill. I think he's my favorite character in this specific movie, just because I feel like he really speaks to a lot of us in terms of like having that fear, right? Like Ripley's afraid, but she's seen this before. She
Yeah.
knows it exists. She's kind of badass. She goes back in there. But I feel like Bill Paxton's character as Hudson is very like, he's like, heck no, like I'm not like really like this
Yeah.
is, like what's our option? And they're just like, I don't really know what our options are. And he's just kind of like,
Yeah.
oh no,
He's
like
almost
no.
like the voice of the audience.
Yeah,
kind
he's
of,
like,
in
yeah,
a
very
sense.
voice of like that fear audience, not like the like, yeah, we're gonna go kill him, we're gonna get him, we're gonna do this. But I
Yeah.
just feel like he's very relatable, and then like kind of his knee-jerk reaction to fear is kind of being somewhat funny and comical, which I feel like is a lot of people just like they don't know how to react to like a
Yeah.
serious or scary situation, so they're gonna laugh or they're gonna, you know, kind of make fun of it.
Yeah, like the common person could connect with his character because like a lot of
Yeah.
people would react that way in the
Yeah.
situation similar like that. Like you said, Ripley's just like ready to go.
Yeah.
It's
And he's
not
got a
his
lot of
name.
great one-liners.
Oh, he's a one-line.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh,
he's
he is.
great.
He is
Yeah,
awesome. It's
he's
not his name
all
in the
the best
movie,
ones.
but I always call him
Yeah.
Kyle Reese from Terminator. So he's just also the same way. He's very like just listening to Ripley. We gotta do this. We gotta do that. And Vasquez is just
Vasquez is
kick ass, you
badass.
know.
Yeah,
and
she's
Bill Paxton's
badass.
like, "What are we doing? Can we get the hell out of here? Like,
Hell
what
no.
is?" Yeah, he's like, "No."
But
And
I feel
that's
like
the
in
common.
the end, he does end up like showing his like true strength, where he like he kind of like is in for the fight. He does that like big heroic yell, and
Yeah.
then, you know, he kind of just gets unfortunately taken down. But
literally.
and R.I.P. in real life, yeah, Bill Paxton,
Oh yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, R.I.P. Big dog.
I do want to also bring up, just because I know how much of a like Shining fan Joseph is,
Yeah, buddy.
Ooh.
that there's a scene where I think it's Ripley's in her chambers and she's smoking a cigarette, and that ash
Yeah.
is like so long.
I know we're not talking about the Shining, but you could literally buy the cigarette as a toy.
Okay,
not
okay.
even kidding.
So I know your birthday's coming up,
Yeah.
and I honestly looked into this,
Oh,
and I could not find it.
I know.
I looked for it so hard, and like maybe they have it like on like some weird dark webby.
It might be like a fan made type of thing where
Yeah,
you have
it
to
might be
pay like
Etsy
something.
might
Yeah.
have it.
yeah, but it's probably gonna be like an insane amount because it's fan made. But yeah, that you brought that
Yeah.
up when we watched it the last time, and I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Just, like
That's
look at
just
that, like that
funny,
ash
though.
is like
Just-
oh
in
my
the little
God.
box too.
it's so funny.
yeah, dude.
I have one other thing to say. So going back to like the whole idea of like Ripley like having not necessarily like a fear but like a distrust of these robots. Is it a common theme in all the other Alien movies or most of it that you don't really know that you have like a robot amongst you?
Up until for the most part through like Resurrection,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
which we'll touch on later. But with Prometheus, it's established immediately.
Yes.
that,
Mm.
what
I
was
remember
his-
that.
was it
Michael.
David
Yeah.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
I
Michael
was saying.
Fassbender.
I was,
That's
gonna say, I was
the
like,
actor.
Yeah.
actor name.
is the main android on board
Mhm.
because he's the only one not in stasis.
Is there
Yes.
is there? I'm trying to remember for the life of me. Is there a robot in the third one?
No.
Not to my
I don't
knowledge,
believe
right?
so.
Aliens
So
3
I
does
think
not- I don't
maybe
think it has
Bishop
one.
is shown.
Well,
possibly.
Bishop. Yeah, I was like, I think they briefly, and we'll talk about Alien 3. I think they briefly show Bishop, which we'll get into a little bit later. But I was gonna say, I think you're right, Ryan, that for the most part, like there is like an alien on board, and it's not really typically known for the rest of the crew. And I feel like that touches very much on like the sci-fi of now we're talking about alien, like robots in general, very sci-fi, very scientific.
Yeah.
And then I think that also is like a side, like a side undertone of just like, can we trust them? Like
Yep.
once we built these things, we should be able to trust them, but do we?
It's not. You can also attach like Ridley, Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Has a lot of those undertones.
Yeah.
Terminator with James Cameron. So like those two, I feel like did the best because they've added that to their other movies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like and like the distrust and all that stuff. I think it works well, but like we already brought it up. But when Bishop does his thing, and you're like, you could be like, yeah, he's part of the crew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Because to me, like while watching like Aliens, I didn't really see like where like Bishop wronged Ripley or anything. I think he
No,
tried
just-
his best to the most that he could possibly do to befriend her and to befriend everyone else on the cast or on the crew on the ship. And he goes out of his way to try when they like stuff him in the little tube, and he like
Yeah.
wherever he goes.
Yeah.
And then there's also like towards like the third half of the film, like towards like the end, when he unfortunately gets stabbed through the heart or his lack of heart, whatever it is for
His-
He gets
his-
Ripped in
scarecrowed.
half.
Yeah, it was
ripped
like
in
his
half.
core, his
Yeah,
chest,
his
chestal
core.
And
area.
all his
Um,
jelly falls out.
yeah.
You know, all his milk and
spaghetti
yogurt.
milk.
Like his milk and yogurt.
I didn't want to say that, but, yeah. But then you have him like,
All the Alfredo sauce everywhere. Meat.
but like he tries to save Newt when Ripley opens the space
Yep.
door, whatever it's called,
Yeah, yeah.
suction.
The
Everyone like
space
gets sucked
door.
out of there, and I think it shows like a humanization to him. Like I feel like with his character, obviously he's not a human, he doesn't have a heart or anything, but I think the more time he spent amongst them and everything, he started to me like I always kind of forgot that he was a robot. I felt like at times like I thought unless like
He's
I
one
saw
of
his
the
liquid
boys.
coming out
Yeah.
of him.
Because he's not a robot. He's Lance Hendrickson.
And like I feel like Ripley was more upset that they didn't tell her shit. Like,
Yeah.
She doesn't find out until he's like bleeding.
Yeah.
Like that's the only reason when like that white stuff comes out of her finger. That's when she's like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
Like you were never giving me information about like the full mission. Then
To be fair, I feel like this is kind of the second movie where we kind of see Ripley as being the odd man out. And I feel like that's always kind of the case as we go into the franchise. Whereas the first one, she's right, the voice of reason. Everybody's like, no, let him in. Like, we got to protect our guys. This is
Yeah.
our crew kind of thing. And in this one, she's in a different setting. She's not a, space marine or whatever.
No.
So, like, they kind of treat her at a distance. And then she's talking about aliens. And they're like, what are you talking about, aliens? Like, there's no such, like, what are you talking, like, this is ridiculous, right? So I feel like she's always kind of like that odd man out kind of feeling where she's kind of almost having to fight not just against like these alien creatures but also against the crew that she's working with for
Yeah.
kind of etc. So and also just general props to Sigourney Weaver like for being Ripley.
Yeah.
I feel like we haven't really touched extremely on that, but she got nominated for Academy Award for this movie, which is like almost unheard of for horror.
Yeah.
So
Academy doesn't really respect horror movies.
Yeah.
I just don't think they recognize enough. Obviously, like I think in recent horror as well, they definitely could take I think some opportunities in certain acting, especially female acting from my personal perspective, because I think like this is once again like you get that trope of like the final girl, Ripley being the final girl. So I think there's a lot to be said with having that strength and like I've been saying like the undertones of like maternal instincts and everything like that. I think it definitely is nice to see from Ripley, and I feel like Sigourney Weaver just does a bang up job.
Oh, she's awesome.
Yeah, she's great.
There's
So-
another character that I wanted to touch upon too that we haven't talked about yet, and that is the perfect asshole to this movie.
Yeah, he really is.
Mr. Paul
Eric?
Reiser.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because you don't expect it at first. Because like I always forget, like I just know him as like that funny comedian guy who's on Mad About You.
You always say that.
Because that's the only. That's like, I know him from like three things,
you
and
always
it's
say
that.
that about you.
So he's just like that guy And for him to just end up being the villain at the end,
Yeah.
like, nah, I'm the reason that we're all here, and money.
Oh, dude, yeah. There's that scene where he turns off the camera when
Mhm.
Ripley and you are
Yeah.
stuck in
Oh,
that
yeah,
room.
in the
you're
medical-
so
And
mad.
it's like,
you get so mad at him.
It is
Just
just
like-
he's just a scumbag, man. But it works for him because, like you said, you don't necessarily think that's gonna be him if you're just freshly watching this film. And when that happens, like, oh, he's just a company man that's just being a douche right now. And I think that works for him.
Mhm.
Like he pulls it off perfectly. Like he is one of like those villains that you don't expect that just pop up and you're like, yeah. It's not just the aliens they're fucking fighting. They're also going against this dude because he's trying to do the right for the company, even though it means all of them are gonna die. Like
Yeah.
he's gonna do what he's gotta do.
And I think that that's another like good theme of the Alien franchise is like, so the aliens should be like the primary villain, right? Like they're trying to attack us, kill us, and get rid of us. But there's always like a secondary villain that's happening, whether it's like an AI or typically it's mostly something company wise, right? It's like what is it? It's the Wayland.
Wayland.
Wayland
Wayland.
Yutani Corp.
Wayland Yutani,
But
yeah,
I don't know when they become Yutani and Wayland.
I know they are.
Or
I think it's
separate.
up
I
till
think
the.
it's just Wayland and Aliens.
Well, I think it's up to. I think it's Wayland, Utani, up until the third one, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong,
I pull that up.
but I think it's so funny too. I don't know if you guys know this, that those two names are actually Ridley Scott's neighbors that he hated, so he put them together and made them
The
company.
ultimate horrible shadow companies, like douchebag.
I mean,
That's-
what better way to
that's
like
such a Ridley Scott
Scott
move,
Wayland.
man.
Like, how do I
Wayland
just
door
like
neighbor.
how do I stab these people that I'm not a big fan of?
That's such a smart move,
Yeah.
and also for aliens.
I think it's hilarious. I mean, what a way to like
Yeah.
also like honor them in a weird way.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like the best honor is, I guess, like naming your characters like for life. Now you just know the Wayland name.
yeah, it adds more to like
Yeah.
his story. than
Tell me to
anything
cut my
else.
grass.
Yeah,
son
like
of a
God,
bitch.
move my trash bins. I'll put you in the
fucking
alien
move the
movie.
fucking trash
Yeah.
bins.
Yeah,
People are gonna talk
I
about this
think-
for years. It's not even gonna be that big of a movie. You just wait. I'll make an alien. It's like I'm
Crap.
gonna add you guys in this shit.
Just your flowers are on my side of the garden. How down I'm gonna put you in that
your
movie.
tree back.
Ooh.
And then also, Aliens has probably one of the biggest quotes in like movie history. I mean, like
Oh, yeah.
it's one every pop culture like show or theme has used. Get away from her, you bitch.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like that adds. It's easier to remember that movie because everybody always quotes that in other shows and stuff.
That and the game over.
Yeah.
Game-
The game
Game
over, man.
yeah.
I was like, those two quotes alone, I feel like kind of solidify where it sits, especially in this franchise, if not the genre itself.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak from an era, but because I know she thought it was kind of cheesy. I have always dug it. What do you guys think about Ripley when she's in that like armored
Oh,
suit?
yeah,
and
that was the
or
one
she's
thing I
like
did not like
fighting
about
the
that
alien
movie.
mother. Like,
Well, it also makes sense too because in the first Alien, she's part of like the engineering crew. I don't think it's
Yeah.
really like she's the supervisor or something.
Well, she has like a license, right? They talk about like
Yeah.
her license
Yeah.
a lot, and I think in the first and maybe the second one.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
see her use
Yeah,
that
so
same
they
machine
set
at the
that up.
beginning of Aliens. So
Exactly.
it's almost like a callback
Yeah.
to the beginning of where they're like, could you use this machine? It's been 57 years. And she's like, yeah, I can use this machine. And she does it. So
Yeah.
I think it's
Little
like
crab
kind
claws.
of, yeah, it's like a little like, tidbit to her badassery, if you will. But I don't know. I'm fine with her using the machine. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I feel like at least the first 3 movies or even 4 movies of Aliens kind of progress, you kind of get a little bit more cheesy, campy.
yeah,
Because you already know they exist, right? Like you've already seen the bad guy.
Yeah.
You know he's coming for you. So I mean, there's not really a whole lot that can be like thrown in there in terms of fear unless
Yeah.
you're doing something like a really quick kind of like shock, or kind of like a jump scare, if you will, kind
Yeah.
of thing. So I don't know. I didn't mind it. Like, and
Yeah.
like Brian said, like she's an engineer or something like that.
Something. yeah.
She's something. Yeah, I honestly
Because
forget what
she
her
talks
title
to
is.
those two guys that are always like fixing the ship and the
Yeah,
like the
mhm.
bowels
Yeah.
of the ship.
yeah.
She is a warrant officer.
There you go. She's
Yeah.
a warrant officer.
There you go. Pulled it up. Did you ever
I
find out
did.
the?
Oh yes,
Where
and
we at
then
on
the
that?
name
Yeah,
of the
like-
company in Aliens is Wayland Yutani Corporation.
Okay.
There you go.
She's introduced to when she's woken up from her stasis sleep after 57 years. She's introduced and rescued by the Wayland Yutani Corporation.
Gotcha.
Which, like, what an underrated fear as well. Like, can you imagine being in like
Asleep?
asleep and then you wake up and they're like, it's been 57 years.
Yeah.
Everybody you know is either really old or maybe not here anymore.
Dead.
So I just want to know what's going on with that cat.
The
dude,
cat's fine. The
the
cat
cat
lived a
was-
nice,
yeah.
healthy life.
Do we
On
know
Earth.
that?
Yes, we
Do we
do.
know that? Because we never
Yes.
see that cat again.
So what does
Because
the cat
gets
do?
left behind.
The
The
cat is
cats.
the cat.
Cat's the mascot.
Honestly, I feel like there's a part of me as like, you know, if you're a cat versus dog person that I really find, because eventually we'll get to it, but there's a dog in Aliens that they come upon. But with the cat, I mentioned earlier that like aliens are very cat-like, and you never really see them go after Jonesy the cat.
Jonesy's slick.
Interesting.
He's
Yeah,
like,
I don't know if he's just
hides
slick
and
or if
stuff.
they like respect game and game
respect
kind
game?
of thing. Yeah, I was like game respect game, but like I don't know. I feel like
The
it's
game
kind
of
of a
cat
very
foolery is upon us.
Yeah.
They're
yeah,
like,
I was like I don't know, but I feel like there's kind of something there that I haven't really dove into, but I'm just so glad when that cat comes back and they're just like, when she's just like, Jonesy, you're okay, and you're like, thank God the cat's okay.
yeah, because there's definitely movies where the animals are not so lucky, and every
That
time
is
I was
true.
just like, oh, this movie sucks.
Oh,
Oh,
anytime
dude,
anytime
brutal.
it's a dog, Ryan's immediately like, no,
Same.
turn it off,
No.
no.
Yeah, like
Mm-mm.
I can't. I've watched Marley and Me a couple of times. I never watched
Why?
the ending of that
Why
movie.
a couple?
do
Yeah,
that?
why a
I know,
couple?
why are you
of-
Because I
repeating
watched it the first time and I watched the full thing, and
She's a
then
big-time
my
Owen Wilson
other big time Jennifer Aniston fan.
You didn't get sad enough the first time.
Oh my God, I love Owen Wilson.
I watched it with people
Should've
who are
got
just
a
like, we've
taste.
never seen it. Let's
Oh.
watch it. I'm just like,
I mean, I've never
Watch it
seen
on your own
I've
time.
never seen Marley and Me, but I know enough.
I've
to
never
where
seen
I
you
it
don't
either.
want to.
But now knowing that you've watched it with multiple people, I kind of want to watch it with you.
I'll watch it. I'll just leave the last like 15 minutes. I'll go
Well,
home.
what's the point?
I
Hey,
saw it enough.
do you want to see a grown woman cry?
Yes,
That's rude.
Yes.
it's good to feel your feelings, man.
I don't want to. Do
Like Airbud.
you guys want to know a fun fact about Jonesy the cat for the Alien?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
For the
do
first two
know.
movies?
Yeah, absolutely no.
They used 4 different cats to play Jones.
I actually did know that.
One cat was used for just holding, one cat was used for just hissing, and one was used for scampering, whatever that means for cats.
Yeah, that Jonesy does that a
Scampering.
lot.
I've
Scampers
never owned a
around.
cat, so I don't know.
They also
tend to
used-
scamper a lot.
What is scampering in a cat?
Just
Oh, that.
Just that noise.
just that. Yeah.
They also used 5 different newts. Did you know that?
Newts.
I'm just kidding.
I was like newts. I was like newts.
There's more than one.
I'm just kidding.
I forgot her name for a second. I was like an actual like newt, not the child.
What are our thoughts on the dream sequence in the beginning of the film?
Not a fan.
No.
Not
Yeah,
a
me
fan.
neither. I don't think you
I-
needed it.
It's-
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
agree.
know. I don't know. I feel like at a certain point we were like, well, the first time we saw like a dream sequence, right, where I was like, oh, you know, like kind of thing. But now it's like such an overused trope, you know,
Yeah.
kind of thing, where like it's ruined. Like, what was it, Dallas? I don't know
yeah.
if you guys remember that show Dallas, but like they used it there.
Another Family
And it
Guy
was
reference,
just
too.
such like, I mean, well, yeah, it's also a show.
Oh, I
but
know.
but like it's just that, well, yeah, and then it's funny that I said reference Dallas because Dallas and Alien, which is
Yeah.
really fun.
Oh yeah, shit.
Ooh.
That's right.
That's what I thought you were talking about
Nice.
original. I'm
Dual,
like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's where I went
yeah,
to.
I was
Like, did I
dual-
miss something?
Dual reference, everybody. No, but I think I don't know. Like I'm so like hit or miss with dream sequences because I feel like if used properly, they could be like a really good part. I don't know. And
Yeah.
then it just like, and then in the back of my head, as I say that, I just see like the Twilight movie in my brain. You know,
I
kind of
would
thing.
never forgive you for that.
It's just,
You're so welcome.
it's
Oh,
so
yeah.
like.
Did you see
Pop
that shit
culture.
in theaters too?
Hell no. What
But
the
I
fuck?
don't know, I
feel,
One night.
I feel like
Oh my
yeah.
God.
We'll touch on that.
well,
later
no,
too.
I feel like as far as like dream sequences go, I feel like this one was utilized pretty well. Like 'cause
As far
'cause
as they go, yeah.
Well, no, because think about it. Like at the first one, she's going into Cairo sleep, and then this one, she's waking up for Cairo sleep. So like she is sleeping, she is dreaming, and then the whole thing with Newt, where she's talking about like, can we dream now? So I kind of feel like that's a good, like, kind of straight through.
Yeah, she sleeps and wakes up 3 times in this movie.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like
She got
it's
her-
I
she
feel
got
like
her
it's
rest.
utilized fair.
She got her hours in.
Getting that beautiful.
She got that rest. Yeah, she was prepared.
I feel like, so yeah. So I feel like it's utilized well here, where in other terms it may not be.
Oh,
used
yeah, yeah.
Well.
Oh, yeah, other movies, it's a cheap
Yeah.
pop. It's
Yeah, it's
a
like
just,
a
they
get-
just
yeah.
use it for a moment for you to be like, oh, and then you're just like,
But
really,
I feel like
man?
there's
Like,
certain movies where like it's worthy, right? So like things that like where you're dealing with sleep deprivation or anything like that. Like so like Nightmare on Elm Street, I feel
Well,
like
yeah.
that's appropriate because like, you know, are they awake? Are they not awake? Are they like where are we? Kind of thing. And then in other places you're
Terminator
just,
2.
like, He's looking at you, Terminator 2.
Shout out to James Cameron.
Speaking of James Cameron, when we rewatched Aliens, I was talking to Joseph about this. I was like, James Cameron directed this? I thought his first movie was Titanic. And he just
Dude,
walked
I'm
away
like,
from me.
are you
He
kidding
just
me?
walked
How
away.
old do you think Leo is?
This hurts our souls very much.
His first movie was actually Piranha 2.
See, I didn't know this.
Was it really?
Yes, yeah.
There you go.
I thought it was Terminator.
No, it's Piranha 2. Terminator was his
really?
second movie. Aliens was his third. Then I lose
Yeah, I was
track
like, I
of
know
where else that
I know
goes.
Aliens was up there on
Yeah.
on the list, but I didn't know. For some reason I thought Terminator was like the first one for some reason, but that makes sense.
I mean, it would have been a lot cooler if it was. We want to rank this movie?
Can you imagine going back to back Terminator and then Aliens?
I mean, that
Like,
is
well,
already
yeah,
what
I
a
mean,
career
that's
on
pretty-
a resume.
that's pretty
Like,
sick,
fucking
yeah.
And then
Terminator.
Titanic? Did you do Titanic after this one?
No, I don't think so. I think there's a gap between.
No,
Yeah, there's
Titanic's
yeah.
like
other movies and stuff in there
1997.
probably.
I don't know my time.
I know what came out first, T2 or Titanic.
I know what year Titanic came out, but I don't know what year.
Was that 96?
I don't recall it.
I don't know. That's a different.
I want to say Titanic was 97 because I remember my parents going to see it
There's
in
no way he went
theaters.
back to back years.
And there was
T2
an
and Titanic.
intermission.
That's also
And there was an
Bill
intermission
Paxton
in that
classic
movie.
right there.
Terminator 2 was 1991. He had True Lies in 1994. Titanic in
great
1997.
Fantastic movie
And then he
man.
took like 10 years off, 20 years off.
for Avatar.
I don't
Avatar.
care for the giant Smurfs, but I do have bangers in the 80s and 90s. Like,
They
he
do.
was delivering some solid classics.
I just remember Titanic being that fat ass box set. That two.
But I mean,
Oh,
Yeah,
yes,
the two
dude. I
box,
remember that.
yeah.
but respect to James Cameron for like doing his thing because I feel like ever since the 90s ended and we got the 2000s, like everybody was obsessed with world building,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like he really kind of at least attempted to do that, and I feel like succeeded. I don't know how we feel about Avatar, but
I mean, box office wise, it's
oh yeah, it's
It's
a
a
banger.
He's had
Massive.
great
Oh,
yeah,
box
it's a
o-
banger.
box
You can think
office.
like what you
he
want
is,
of it,
there was,
but
like,
he's
yeah,
like,
guaranteed. Like I mean, like even just look at Mooney brought it up right now, but like looking at his films, like he doesn't do a lot of films, but when he does a film, it's a box office
Mm-hmm.
banger. So he's gonna get millions, and like I think every single Alien movie, like tends to do that, where they like
Yeah.
double, triple, whatever their budget is, whether
Yeah.
it's like in the like schmedium millions to like the earlier
which is
millions.
fun to
Yeah.
look back to because like Ridley Scott hasn't been having that many bangers lately. Like Napoleon bombed.
I did.
There's-
yeah,
yeah,
I
there's
didn't
been a
know
few-
that,
Yeah,
but I
I
mean,
heard
Like
Glad
where
Yeah.
James
Yeah.
Cameron's
Bombed.
still like
Yeah.
consistently
Yeah.
still doing it. Like I'm just
Did
doing
we
a
see
compare.
Avatar
No, that's
too?
right.
No.
I didn't see it.
We haven't
Well,
seen
then I
it.
would.
It
I didn't
took,
see Avatar
it took
1.
like
I was like,
10
I'm
It took me
No,
like
I'm
10
talking.
years
I'm
to
talking about
watch
like just
Avatar.
success.
Missed me with
Like
that one.
Yeah.
which one?
Avatar.
Avatar?
I
didn't see
watched
that
it for the
shit.
first time like 10 years after it came out.
We watched it
I
during
didn't
COVID.
necessarily hate it. I just didn't care
It
to go
wasn't
watch
bad.
it when it came out. I never
Yeah,
cared
absolutely
about
not.
the story or anything like that. Wasn't terrible. I haven't seen the second one because I'm gonna wait 10 years again. And then we'll just
By
go
then we'll
from
be on
there.
Avatar 5.
Oh
Probably.
yeah, probably be on Alien like 17 at that.
I think like for like James Cameron's career, he's been nominated 45 times and he's won 22 of them. It's pretty good.
That's 50%. That's an F right there.
Well, I mean, if you put it that way.
No, I think they did. What did they do? I saw this. Okay, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Just this is a random side note as well. They put up. It was like fantasy movies where they put up like Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and Harry Potter, and it was like how many films versus how many nominations, and like out of Harry Potter's like 8 films, The Hobbit's 3 films, and then the Lord of the Rings 3 films. Like I think Lord of the Rings had like 17 nominations for like awards and stuff like that, like Oscars or something. And it's just like, yeah, you don't need that many films to get awards. Like you could just throw it out. I mean, like even Alien 3, I think, still got nominated for like best visual effects.
God.
Ooh.
Yeah, like I don't like. Anyway, but I think in terms of what Aliens has done, I think it's just definitely brought a lot. I mean, Sigourney Weaver, yeah, nominated for an Oscar. I think she, we got a lot to Ripley. I think you can also tell that Sigourney Weaver is very dedicated to this character. I think she kind of brings a lot of herself into this character, personally speaking. I think I mentioned this to Mooney at one point because I know in the first episode she talked about how she loves Mamma Mia, but Meryl Streep was up for the role of Ripley, which I think would be a hilarious different film.
It would have been a very different film. And I
Oh,
agree with
very
you.
different film.
I think Sigourney Weaver was the right cast for the right casting choice for Ripley. I could not picture anyone else as Ripley. I don't know anyone else who will commit their over 30 years of their lives doing the Aliens franchise.
I think it was just funny because me, Joseph, and Mooney watched Aliens together to like.
That's a secret.
No, it's not a secret.
supposed to be a
So
secret.
we rewatched it just to get ready for this, and there was a point where I think Mooney just turned to us and she's like, "Do we like Sigourney Weaver?" And I think the gasp that came out of me and Joseph of like, why would you say that? And then like proceeded to like be like, do you not like Ghostbusters? Do you not like? And then,
No, I didn't know what other movie she was in.
I know, and then we
And then you guys
proceeded
were
to
like,
tell
"Oh yeah,
you.
she's in Ghostbusters," and I was like, "Who's she in Ghostbusters?" And then the look of judgment, Joseph walked away, and I was like,
Oh,
"Oh,
yeah.
she's
What
the
was the
love.
movie?
She's a love interest." And
What was
then
the
you
movie
brought
that
up you
finally got-
again.
Was that was what got you? Was you again?
I like romantic comedies. Sue me. I remember her.
I mean,
in that
I'm
one.
fine with the romantic comedies. I was just like, that's the one. Like, okay, I always preference this with when an actor eventually passes, long, many moons from now. Like, what is their tagline going to be? And I know that Jamie Lee Curtis has this big thing where she's like, yeah, I bet when I pass away, it's going to be like Halloween actress dies at hopefully very old, like
And
hundreds or whatever.
insert age number.
Yeah, insert very old age, right? Because we love her.
Track
But anyway, like
Phenomenal.
that's what I always think of as like, what is their like, what's their tagline gonna be? Like, what's their thing? Like, what was like James Caan when he passed away? Like
actor. who
elf
does
actor.
Elf
like,
actor.
Crack
Yeah.
out of prostitutes' buttholes.
I think
Died.
actually I want. I want to say the article that I
Al
saw
Pacino, Jack and
was
Jill.
was Godfather actor. I think it was Godfather actor passes away or something like that. Like I don't know. They
Yeah,
put
I
like
mean, yeah.
they put whatever
Well,
they put
the-
in there. But like, well, no, but she's referencing when her mother Janet Leigh passed away. It is like psycho actress dies at insert age here. So
Yeah.
I just feel like with Sigourney Weaver, like what would hers be? And I feel like it would be Alien.
It has to be. I
Like
feel
Alien
like.
actress passes away at,
Yeah.
or
As much as
even
I love her in
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters, she's,
I feel like it would be honestly one of those two.
yeah.
So
Wasn't she also in Avatar?
Yes. Yeah.
she was in Avatar.
She was
also
in
a badass in Avatar.
Also in Cabin in the Woods.
Mhm.
That's true.
Briefly.
Yeah.
Very
Oh
briefly.
yeah, spoiler alert. Sorry.
You ruined Captain in the Woods.
I watched something for
How
Aliens.
dare
I can't
you.
even
That
do
mo-
it.
that movie's
I
like
was
a
just
decade
watching
old.
on AMC during the Halloween series.
No.
Okay, so we want to do the.
Let's
Yeah,
rate
do
it.
you wanna
The-
rate it?
the
Yeah, I was like,
ratings
do you
of-
want to rate it?
Marissa, you went last time. Or no, was it Ryan who went last time?
That
Doesn't
doesn't
matter.
matter.
I honestly
Anybody
don't. Yeah, I
take
was
it.
like-
Yeah.
Yeah, I say you go. So
Yeah, you throw it
Ye-
out.
yes,
because you were
because
the
you-
worst.
My
rating
pes-
of
the
us.
pessimist? So I really did enjoy this one a lot more than the
1.5.
first one. No, it's gonna be higher than Alien. I would give it a solid 3.5.
damn.
It's a huge step up.
3.5.
It was a good time. I
3.5
enjoy-
is a good time.
God, I can't wait till we talk about Mamma Mia too. That rating's gonna be wild.
God, she's gonna be like, it's an 8 out of 10. It's gonna be an 8 out of 5 for me.
Infinity out of 5.
It's just like above and beyond.
5 Meryl Streeps out of 5.
Look, I enjoyed it, and then I think to me I don't know what consists a perfect film for me, and I think this one was a really good film. It's a good action film, it's a good sci-fi film. I'm not the biggest fan of sci-fi, but I had a good time. I
But
enjoyed
enough
it.
to give it 1.5 points higher than what she gave the first one.
Yes, I'm a tough critic. I will leave it at that.
All right.
Okay.
I'll give the next one to Joseph. I want to see his response.
Yeah, I'm
to
gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Only 0.5 higher.
What's out of 5?
I mean, he gave the last one
I give
4.
I give it a 4. I like
So
this.
I'm just
I
giving
mean,
him
okay.
shit.
Consistent,
I will, okay,
dude.
I'm
I
just
will
giving
also
him
say
shit.
to call back to when the three of us watched it, there was a moment where I think you were on your phone
Shocker.
and you were saying something to Joseph and you're like, Joseph, and he literally turned around. He's like, "What? I really like this movie."
Oh, I was locked in.
And she was like,
I was
"Oh, you're
so
really into this."
locked in.
He
That
was
is
so locked
true.
into it.
I
which,
could put that movie anytime, and there's gonna be a moment in that film where I'm gonna stop what I'm doing just to watch it for a solid few minutes because I just love that film. So 4.5.
Yeah,
I'm like,
so I feel
I
like
gave the
that's
other one a
comparable.
4. This is my favorite of the franchise. I'm gonna give it 4.5.
Yeah, I could see that coming out of Joseph.
Ryan.
That definitely makes sense. For me, yeah, I would give it a 4. I think it was a solid improvement, or not improvement, but
Continuation.
Great continuation, and yeah, I thought it was. I think it's a great movie. It's a great time. It's a great popcorn flick for sure.
I'm gonna stay with you and say a 4 out of 5. I think in terms of talking about sequels in general, I think it's a great continuation. Especially, I know what we talked about during our intro episode about continuing the story or getting a different perspective, adding another chapter, continuing like the character arc, everything like that. I think it definitely does that really well and blends that in kind of with a different subgenre. So obviously, you know, when we first discovered Alien, it's kind of more sci-fi horror. So we got a little more like creepiness, a little more foreboding. Whereas with Aliens, we got a little bit more action, which I think, especially given the time frame, which was like the mid to late 80s, if I'm not mistaken, we were definitely getting more like action kind of comedy-esque films. So I feel like that definitely spoke to what we were getting versus what we wanted out of this film. I think James Cameron was a great choice for a director. Sigourney Weaver, she's getting that nomination. She's doing very well. So overall, with every single point, even the AI robot in there, I would absolutely give it like a solid 4 out of 5. I think the only thing that keeps it from doing like the 4.5 for me is just maybe like the certain special effects with the Alien, which I understand, like for the time frame, they didn't have a lot of like big special effects. They did a lot of like just kind of everyday kind of things, but I don't know. I don't want to. I'm also like kind of strong holding the perfect film. Like I don't know if anything's ever gonna give me
One
the 5
day
out of
it'll
5.
come along. Who knows?
Like you too.
I
Mamma
honestly,
Mia.
I feel
That
the only movies that are really giving me like 5 out of 5 views are kind of what we talked about in the first episode, which are like your Toy Story 2s, Godfather 2, that are kind of giving me like perfect film vibes. Definitely not Mamma Mia at all whatsoever. Even though I enjoy ABBA very much, but anyway, I'm gonna stay with you. I'm gonna say 4. I'm gonna say 4 out of 5. Solid 4 out of 5 though.
3.5. God damn it. Anyways.
Haters gonna hate.
So that's it, right? That's
Yeah,
gonna do it for
I
us.
love it. Definitely recommend. If you haven't seen it, I know we mentioned a bunch of spoilers, but if you haven't seen it, definitely go watch Aliens.
Watch it where you find movies.
Yeah.
It's all on Disney Plus if you have Hulu subscription
If you haven't seen it,
or
what's wrong
Disney
with you?
Plus.
Just kidding.
Not
it.
sponsored by Disney Plus.
No, no.
But if you
We'll
want to
watch
watch it, it's on
Yeah.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, so it's going to be us signing off. Thanks for joining us on this episode. Don't forget to subscribe if you like what you see. Get the bell notifications so you can let us, you'll be known when we drop new videos.
Yeah, you'll be notified. Links should be down low in the description.
Down
If you have
there.
a comment, leave a comment, ask a question, give us your review if you've seen it.
Yeah.
Love to hear your guys'
Yeah.
opinion about the film itself.
Tell us what you think we should do next.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much for watching.
Deuces.
Bye.
I got to pee.
Thanks for listening. Until next time, the podcast, a show so sublime. Marissa, Mooney, Joseph, and Ryan signing off with glee. Join us next episode for more sequel revelry.